I remember a few years back, well, actually like 10 years back, I was renting a house with some amazing women, and it was just a couple blocks from the ocean, which is why I really wanted to live there. And I went in on renting this house with them just because I love the ocean, and the thought of being able to just go to the ocean anytime I wanted sounded amazing. And I remember there was one of the women there who I still love dearly and I still am very much connected with, and she would be relaxing in her comfy chair as I was rushing out the door like a mad woman to get to the gym because I was very much addicted to the gym at that time. And she'd just be kicking back, relaxing, sipping her coffee, just looking out the window. And she would say, "Hey, Eileen, don't forget to savor the pause." And in that moment, I kind of like listened, I heard it, but I was like, dude, I got like stuff to do. So I just kept running to get to the gym. And it didn't really settle with me at that time. It didn't bother me that she said it, but it did not stick with me at all. Although it did stick with me because I'm still remembering it today. At that time, maybe I just took it in. It was like a little seed that was planted, but I didn't really do anything with it because I was on a mission to go to the gym, to burn calories, to check the box, the little box that I had created, workout done, workout complete. And I was very much in a state of fight or flight, a state of go mode 24/7. And she was very much in a parasympathetic, ventral vagal regulated state during those mornings. I didn't realize that was what was going on there. But when I look at it through the lens of our nervous systems, I now see it. But anyways, she planted the seed to savor the pause. And even though like in that moment I didn't really do anything with it, I wasn't really ready to receive it and I didn't do anything with it. Looking back now, I totally get it. Like it clicks for me 100%. And I don't know if it clicks in the way that she intended it for me, but it totally clicks now. And I do savor my pause. I actually think having pauses in our lives, intentional pauses, the power of the pause, having pauses in our life is a critical part of having a truly healthy and well-rounded life. And the craziest thing is we often are just in a state of frenzy. We live in a culture that glorifies working nonstop, hustle culture, right? Glorifies working nonstop, do more, achieve more, be more. Our worth is very much attached, according to hustle culture. Hustle culture, our worth is very much attached to how much we make, which isn't true at all, or how many hours we work, which isn't true at all, right? Our worth is not attached to that. But that's a lie that we're fed. And I think because of that, it becomes really hard to pause and slow down. And when we see someone pausing and slowing down, I think sadly, because we're conditioned by hustle culture, I think sadly we see that as a sign of weakness when really it's a sign of strength to be able to pause, to be able to draw a line and be like, hey, you know what? I did enough work for today. I did enough work for today. And now it's time for me to just take a moment to pause, to be still, to do whatever I want to do. I think that's really incredible, honestly. And so I have started, I'm not perfect at this. I'm not like perfect at anything I teach and share. The pause, the intentional practice of pausing is something I've integrated into my life, but it is still something that I have to be mindful and intentional to do. And I can still find myself in seasons in which it feels really challenging to do. So please don't think like I've arrived or whatever. I'm just here sharing my experiences and what I've learned and what's been really helpful for me. And I'm hoping that there's something within that that you can take just to have more regulated nervous system and more freedom with food, exercise in your body. And so, yeah, so the power of the pause. Why does it even matter? Like, why is pausing important? Let me make sure my mic is not getting hair on it. Okay. Why is pausing important? Pausing, when we pause, it's like it sends a signal to our nervous system that, hey, we're safe. Pausing helps our nervous system feel safe because if we're in that constant state of frenzy, that constant state of fight or flight, ooh, dude, our nervous system does not feel safe. Pausing is, yeah, it sends that strong signal that, hey, we're safe. And then what happens? We're able to shift into that more regulated state. that ventral vagal state, that parasympathetic state, that state where we can really start to heal, that state where our prefrontal cortex comes online and we can make rational decisions. And all of that is super important for having a healthy relationship with food. If our prefrontal cortex isn't online, that is when we find ourselves caught up in emotional eating, binge eating, feeling out of control around food, using food as like just our primary way to soothe our emotions. We're not bashing emotional eating. I think sometimes emotional eating has its place. Food and emotion are tightly connected, and I think sometimes we should give ourselves permission to just enjoy a piece of chocolate cake, grandma's recipe, whatever, our aunt's recipe, and really just allow that emotion to be there without judgment. But that, we don't want to do that 24/7, right? But having our prefrontal cortex online allows us to make rational decisions around food, exercise, and our body. And pausing is what helps us to do that. I mean, pausing is even more powerful than that. I'm going to try to connect the dots. I didn't create an outline, so we're going to see how Eileen does with this. I don't love making outlines. And I know I say this before. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it never comes out the way I want it to come out when I have a tight outline. But when I'm just talking, I feel like I can connect and I can help. Maybe you see what I'm thinking in my mind. So, the power of the pause that my dear friend, I won't say her name, I hope she's listening to this. I really hope she is. And I hope she knows who I'm talking about. The power of the pause that my dear friend taught me. It helps us, yes, to regulate our nervous system because our nervous system feels safe when we slow down, when we pause, sends that safety signal so we can get into that more regulated state. The pause also holds space for us to process stored memory, stored trauma. And you might not be ready for that, and that's okay. That's not something you have to dive into at all. Like that, so if that's like, oh, Eileen, you just lost me, just know that is not something you have to dive into, but it's there for you if you choose that that's something that feels aligned for you in the season. For me, I actually have a lot of stored trauma. I still have PTSD. And it wasn't until I started to work on regulating my nervous system and really got serious about healing my relationship with food, body, and exercise that I started to peel back the layers and to see what was beneath my intense desire for control around food, exercise, and my body. Because there's a reason we want to control those things. It's not really about the food, it's not really about the exercise, and it's not even really about how our body looks. It's the desire for control, and those are things that feel easy to manipulate and control. But the issue with that is it's actually just a distraction. It distracts us from getting to the root of where we truly need the healing. And so it wasn't until I started to really get serious about my healing and I started to really understand that my nervous system needs to be in a regulated ventral vagal state in order to authentically heal. It wasn't until I had those connections that I started to be able to peel back the layers to look at the shit that was really going on inside of me and to stare at it, be like, dude, like there's parts of it that still scare me that I have to back away from, and it will come in time. But that's necessary in order to process that stored trauma, in order to release that from our body. Our body does keep the score. Our body does hold on to the experiences that we have throughout our life. And when we push it down and suppress it, it doesn't just magically go away. It's there until we start to do the work to heal and to do the work to start to release that stored trauma. And 100%, all of the stuff that we're pushing down impacts the way that we show up to our lunch. It impacts the way that we have breakfast or skip breakfast. It impacts how tightly we cling to exercise, or if we're like, screw it, I'm not even going to exercise. It impacts our relationship with food, exercise, and our body 100%. If we're not willing to get to the place where we're peeling back the layers and we look the stuff going on inside, if we look at it, even if it scares us, we look at it and we're like, okay, Little bit by little bit, I'm going to start to process that and release that from my body. I'm going to tell you, when you do that, you are going to have such deep healing. You're not going to need to try to control food, exercise in your body. All the things that you desire, the freedom that you desire, the mindfulness, the intuitiveness that you want with food right now, and the freedom that you want, that is going to come when you do the deep healing work. It will just come. And all of the things that you've been struggling around, the binge eating, emotional eating, feeling out of control around food, those dissipate because they're only happening because we've suppressed what's going on inside of us and we haven't wanted to look at it. And so the power of the pause, let me connect it back. So all of that, I get really passionate because that is part of my story. I'm not here like whatever. I'm like sitting right next to you. Like, this is all part of my story. And I still have areas that I'm healing in. But dude, I'm like, those layers are getting peeled up and I'm like looking at them and I'm processing them in my own time in a way that is healing for me as a unique individual. And I'm not just skating on the surface with a pretend smile on my face. Like, I'm in the messiness of it healing. And I want that for you, if you want that. Because to live authentically and to actually really be present in life and to just savor the moment, savor the pause. Isn't that what life's about? It really is. So learning how to savor the pause helps us to do that. It helps us to have that space to tune into our body, to notice like what's coming up for us, to feel the physical sensations that are attached to the emotions, because all of our emotions do have a physical sensation attached to them, and we feel that in our body. And when we can pause and start to feel that in our body, that's when we can start to release whatever memory, whatever trauma, whatever thing we're tightly gripping to, whatever we're suppressing and holding down. When we can start to feel it in our body through the pause, that's when we can start to heal. Without pausing, we don't feel it, right? And I think that's also one of the reasons we like to go 24/7 as fast as we can, pack our schedules so full that we can barely even breathe, because we don't want that space to feel, because that feels freaking scary, right? It feels so scary to pause and feel. But then we're frustrated because we feel out of control around food when 9 o'clock at night hits. We find ourselves standing in front of the parent pantry, just going through the Oreos, or eating the leftover cake that's on the counter, or the brownies by the forkful. Like, we're just like eating it or picking at it, and we're frustrated by those behaviors. But those behaviors won't actually go away until we address the root of the behavior. And so this is a lot of the work that I do through the yoga therapy practices and inside Nourished Beyond the Plate. I have yoga therapy classes. I provide mini yoga therapy practices. But that's what it's for, to release the stored trauma in the body. So I'm trying not to move too far away from the power of the pause, but I think this is important too. So yoga therapy, very different from talk therapy. Both are really important for healing, but they're different. No amount of talk therapy will help us release stored trauma in our body. No amount of it, because that's not how talk therapy works. Talk therapy has a different release that's very important. But yoga therapy, that's how we release, right? That feeling, that tightness in your chest, that fire in your chest when you see that person, or when you hear that person's name, that rises up in you, that knot. That isn't going to go away through talk therapy. That is going to go away through yoga therapy, because your body is holding on to that trauma, that tension, that memory. And to release that from our body has to happen through the practices. So again, if you want to learn more about Nourished Beyond the Plate, I'll put the link in the show notes. But that's a big part of what sets Nourished apart from other food freedom programs. Yes, I help you define your unique version of food freedom and body peace, and you get to define that. I'm not telling you how to define that. Whatever you want, whatever you desire. And I also help you to really practice self-honesty in your journey. And you learn to regulate your nervous system, and you learn to really peel back the layers to get to the root of what's going on, so you can authentically heal. All in Nourished Beyond the Plate. I'll put the link in the show notes. And so the power of the pause. Let me try not to go way too far off. My friend taught me it, right? She planted that little seed. Thank you, my friend. I love you so much. And the power of the pause helps us to, yeah, get into a more regulated state. It sends that signal of safety to our nervous system. The pause helps us to start to process and release stored memory, tension, trauma in our body. And also, memory can be, if you struggle with chronic pain, that can decrease through these practices because pain can be stored memory in our body. And that's why when we think more about the pain or when we tell ourselves stories about the pain, that's why the pain often it feels more intense. And so also know just pain may be also there stored memory in the body, especially if it's chronic and it's been happening for years and years and years, and it's no longer an acute injury. That may mean it's a sign that, we got to get some of that. We got to peel back those layers. We got to get some of that suppressed memory and emotion released from our body. And so the pause helps with that. And the pause it's going to help you to be more present and more mindful in your life, which, yes, it's going to allow you to be mindful with your food and your eating experience, but even beyond that. And this is why I named my membership Nourished Beyond the Plate, because, yeah, we get the freedom on our plate. But really, why do we even want the freedom on our plate? We want the freedom on our plate because we want the freedom in our lives. We want our mind back. We want to be able to go out and live from a place of freedom. And that is what we can do when we learn to really take hold of the power of the pause and to savor the pause and to allow spaciousness in our day where it's not so tight that we can barely breathe. We're like, I have a little bit of time. Like I'm intentionally carving out this time. This 20 minutes is for me, just a pause. I'm not going to fill it up into my schedule or an hour or whatever you want, or 2 hours, whatever you want that day, but not filling up all of the space in our planner, not putting it so chock full because we need those moments to pause. And so the pause can be a bigger pause. It could be like a 2 hour hike, or it could be just being really mindful to have little pauses throughout your day, little check-ins with your body. How am I feeling in this moment, physically, mentally, and emotionally? What does my nervous system need in this moment to feel more regulated? What little practice can I do? And so I hope this helps you to start to think about how important it is to savor our pauses, the power of the pause, to take time to just be, to take time to check in with your body, to check in with your nervous system, to do the little practices and the little things that are going to help you feel more balanced and more regulated. And also remembering that a regulated nervous system, that is truly what we want when we are healing our relationship with food, exercise, and our body. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, definitely let me know in the comments what you liked about it or if it was helpful. And I will be back next week with a little topic. I haven't decided what yet, but I'm going to chit chat and I hope that'll be helpful for you as well. I hope you have an amazing day.